Hi everyone, Jackie at Spare Room Studio back to do part 2 of this page. It is Ken Matsuda's colouring book. I'm not sure of the title because it is in French and I haven't translated it, but it is that book by Hatchet Heroes. I must apologise if you have watched part 1 that it ended very abruptly and I didn't know that it had stopped recording. So you've missed out on some of this colouring over here, which is very unfortunate. But what I'm going to do is finish off now and show you some of what I have done over here. And what I did was work wet into wet, so I wet the paper, not saturating it because this paper isn't coping all that great with heavy water use. And what I'm going to do is use similar colours to what I've used on this side. I don't want to do a background as such, but it all is kind of floating and needs to be grounded. So what I'm doing here is just a very, very loose wet in wet wash because I want to get those really nice watercolour type bleeding effects going on. And while that is still quite wet, I'm going to drop a lighter colour into it, and I think I'll use that was pine green and this is light green. So I'm just going to get that quite wet and a decent amount of pigment, and I'm going to drop that into that wet area and also some of it into the pine green itself so that it can mix and blend on the paper. So unfortunately, I did touch on it in my recent video that I'm having some technology problems. I record on my phone and I use an iPad to do any editing and uploading. And I've reached maximum storage capacity, and also I have some battery issues with my iPad. So between the two problems, it's testing me quite severely at the moment because I'm really technologically incompetent these days. I have no interest in technology or keeping up with technology. It's a necessary evil for me, and I just don't enjoy technology related stuff. And I also get a bit cross at having to keep upgrading things to keep up, when you can't update software and stuff like that, and you're sort of forced into upgrading just to keep up all the time. That really doesn't interest me. Give me a colouring book and pencils and I'm happy. It's just not something that I'm really all that interested in. It's the same with TVs and stereos and, all that sort of equipment that in years gone by people would be really interested in having top-notch stuff. I never have been. It's just, cars is the same. As long as a car gets me from A to B and it's clean, I don't care how new it is or what model it is or, who made it. I'm not impressed by those sorts of things. So I feel like technology is a bit the same for me. I just, I'm getting left behind really quickly, I'm afraid. Because I'm not in the workforce as well, I'm not required to keep up with a lot of things. Sometimes when you're working, you have to keep up with stuff because your job sort of demands it. But I'm not in that position, so yeah, I feel like I'm turning into a dinosaur really quickly. But so these current issues, I'm waiting for I've ordered a new battery for my iPad. and I'm waiting for that to come in and the guy to ring me and get that sorted. And then I'm really going to have to look into the storage issue pretty soon, because the recording just sort of shut off and I didn't even realise that I was chatting away to nothingness. So and it's frustrating that you're missing half of the colouring, and I can't always recreate that. The bits that have been lost are sort of lost, and unless I start a whole new page and begin all over again, that's gone. So I do apologise profusely for that, but I'll try and get that sorted out as best I can. So there I was working very wet into wet, and getting some washy effects, which I will lift up to the camera before I finish today. And I've kept that very light and very airy as much as I can at this stage. I don't want to go into darkly. I thought I would just show you though that you do have the option with Albrecht Durers, of course, that when you've done a wash and it's dry, completely dry, and you want to bring some details back in, you can use your pencil on dry paper or damp paper, and you can put some really, really cool textural effects in that way, especially when the paper is slightly damp, and then you just lightly brush the tip of the pencil over it. You will get some nice texture happening. And the reason I don't tend to do that an awful lot is if I accidentally wet this page again, that pencil used that way is going to dilute and run and move. And it's highly unlikely that it will happen, but there is always the slight chance that, of course, it might happen. So that's why I prefer to do my washes and let them dry. And if I want to bring pencil in, I use coloured pencil, because that will no longer move then. So I'm going to use Polychromos because I just haven't used them very much, and I feel like keeping everything to Faber Castell for this one. I have the Faber Castell Polychromos range that's in the big wooden box. I was really fortunate to pick that up on a sale last year, and I've yet to work with them an awful lot. I've got ultramarine and light ultramarine here. The box is beautiful. It's presentation wise, it is just such a beautiful wooden box they come in. But it's not very convenient when you work on the sofa or couch. And I don't, as a rule, often sit at the table like I am when I record, when I'm just colouring on my own. So I find that the box is a very cumbersome method to colour with when I'm sitting in front of the TV, and I don't get these pencils out very often, which is a crying shame. However, they won't go off. I live in hope that I'm going to get my own little studio space back eventually, and I can have all of these things out on my big work table and leave them open and work from them comfortably one day again. But today I'm sitting here at the dining room table, so I thought it might be a nice idea to actually get the Polychromos out and work with the Albrecht Durers, because they're all the same brand and the colours transfer across. So I used ultramarine in the Albrecht Durer watercolour, and I've just used ultramarine in the coloured pencil, and they're the same colour. So for the purpose of just firming up some of these areas with a little bit of deeper colour, the colour match is there, which is ideal, and the quality, of course, is there If I did ever want to take this out and put it in a frame or whatever, it's going to be much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Light fast, you know, than other pencils. So, you know, I just felt like today that's what I would do. So all I'm doing is just going into the areas where I might need a little bit of detail. The Polychromos, of course, are a hard pencil and can be sharpened to quite a nice point, and you can do that. So I don't want to cover up all of that watercolour base, I just want to enhance it and perhaps get into some of those smaller areas that I couldn't do with my big water brush, and reinstate some of the details. So I don't want to take over the whole thing with the pencil because I don't want that sort of solid look. I just want a watercolour look that's been enhanced. So another thing with pencils and swatching and so on, I actually don't tend to pre-sharpen all of my new pencils either. Some of these haven't been used yet and they're just as they came. And so I know that some people feel like you don't get the best out of them unless you sharpen them all first and swatch, but I don't do that. So this is Pink Madder Lake, which I used also in the Albrecht Durer watercolour. And I'm just using a little bit there to firm that up a bit. So if I accidentally get cut off here when I'm not expecting it, thank you for joining me with this one again. I do appreciate you being with me. Something to remember when you're working like this is don't try to go into these wet areas with a coloured pencil yet. You're just going to tear up the paper. You can only go on over the watercolour when it's dry. Otherwise, you're going to damage your paper, and after all your hard work, it will be heartbreaking to do that. Now, I didn't use crimson in the watercolour, but I'm going to use the crimson for the pencil just to get that extra deeper colour going on in there. I used magenta with the Albrecht Durer. So I'm just going to use a little bit of the crimson. Yeah, crimson. So I think of crimson as being red, and this is more of a pink, pinky purple. Another reason I don't like to get sort of too caught up with colour names, because you make assumptions and you know, you have preconceived ideas about things without actually investigating the colour. So if you have been watching and bearing with me through all of these technical difficulties, I really do appreciate you doing that. This is light green, which I have been using in the Albrecht Durer. So I'm not going to cover all of this, but just, you know, little areas. I didn't do the centre of those flowers, so I'll do that now with a coloured pencil, and I'm just going to use raw umber just to do a little bit of colour there, a little bit into the owl to help define some areas there. And he's got a little beak there. This is terracotta, which I also used in Albrecht Durer. And I'll just put a bit of colour there. I'll also use this while I've got it out to put some colour back in. Now when I got cut off, I was colouring those fish. Basically what I'd done was used a little bit of terracotta, then I came back with the, I think it was the dark Naples ochre and light cadmium orange or something like that, I think it was, just to bring in a bit more of an orange feel. And I didn't introduce too many new colours. It was all pretty much using what I had already used in other places. And I came over and did the octopus. I used the same colour as that flower, which was the ultramarine. Used the same green, which was chrome oxide green fiery, and a little bit of, I think it was apple green or something like that. So basically just using all the colours that I had already used. This one is light green again, just a little bit of extra in there. So I hadn't introduced too many colours, but of course you just missed seeing me using them over in this section. So this is Naples yellow. I think they renamed a few, but I used the dark Naples ochre in the watercolour pencil. Yeah, I didn't use Naples yellow, but it's of the same sort of colour family. So once again, you can see that, perhaps you can see that I'm quite a careless colourer. I'm just scribbling bits in. I'm not carefully colouring layers. I'm just scribbling little bits in here and there. I'm choosing to work in a much looser way, and so if I wanted a much nicer finish, I would have to be putting some more care in than what I am. I've got pine green here. It's not that I don't care, but it's I'm trying not to make it too laboured. I'm trying to give the impression that I'm just giving an impression. So I'm giving you an idea of what I think these things are and the colours and so on, and then allowing the viewer to make any other assumptions or decisions about what they're seeing in the picture. It's the bottom bit of the frog there that I hadn't done. Just got the edge of the paper, backing paper under there, that was giving a little ridge. And that's a conscious choice to work that way. So sometimes when you're looking on Instagram or whatever social media you like to use, and you're looking at work and you're making assumptions about somebody's colouring ability, they may purposely be choosing to colour in a way that perhaps doesn't meet your expectation of how you would colour something. But that doesn't mean that it's lacking or, not up to scratch, so to speak. It just means that the person has perhaps chosen to approach it in a different way than perhaps you might. So I like to sort of remind people of that now and again, because many a year ago when I started doing a lot of art related things, I was very judgmental, very, very judgmental. And I'm just going to bring in a connector pen highlighter here, and I'm going to bring in a little bit of, it's like a highlighter pen, you know, that fluorescent or neon yellow, and I'm just going to bring some little touches of that in. And what I've found has happened with these connector pens is, with some pencils, when you use them over the top of a pencil, it actually helps to blend and dilute some of that colour. And especially with the watercolour pencil, it would be doing that. So I'm just going to put a little touch of that here and there, just to give it a bit of a perk up, because it feels like it's a little bit flat in some spaces. And I just want to sort of bring that little glow in. And there we go. I seem to always record when that man on his motorbike comes home. So just little touches of it here and there to give a little bit of interest. That's all I'm doing there. A little bit of black maybe in the eyes. If at the end I feel like I need to reinstate any white highlights, it will be just with a white acrylic paint pen or a Sakura jelly roll, something like that. This is one of those books where the black printing doesn't seem to be a very heavy, deep black. So if you really want a black, deep, saturated black, then you'll need to come in with a extra source for that. If you have this book, of course. I didn't mention on the previous video, but if any of you would like a flip through of this book, please let me know. I don't tend to watch a lot of flip throughs, so I don't know if this book is exactly the same as other versions, or whether it's different, whether you might wish to see a flip through of it. Please do let me know, and I can do that for you. Otherwise, I don't really want to reinvent the wheel and do that if there are other versions already on YouTube. Okay, so I'm getting to the point where I'm really quite satisfied that this is how I would leave it. I'm very conscious of the fact that I may end up cutting off inadvertently. This one is leaf green, and I'm just going to put a little bit of green in there as well. So I'm working really quickly here. In my own colouring time, I do tend to be quite a fast colourer, so I sort of try to slow it down a little bit when I'm colouring and recording for you, so that you can see and understand what I'm talking about a little bit better. But I do tend to jump about like this and work quite fast in real life. So they're really starting to dry nicely now. I don't want to cover them up. So I'll show you that before we cut off. So you can see there where I had a wet paper, dropped in a very, very wet wash of pigment, and then actually dropped in some clean water, and it's pushed the pigment back and created that hard edge there. You can see also where the neon pen, it's actually showing on camera much brighter than it is in real life. When I put that away, it's not so obvious. I might put a little touch of that into some of the fish as well. I think perhaps that might look quite nice. I need to blend a little bit more into here. That's all rather obvious stop there, and I've missed some greenery there. Okay, so you can see that one that I just did on camera here. And how those little sort of washes, that was the wet paper, and then with a very wet brush with the pigment in, I've just dabbed it all around there in a very random manner. Okay, so I think I might leave it there. I'll fix up the few little things that I've just pointed out, and I will take a photograph and put it on my Instagram. But thank you so much for watching again. So I've used the Polychromos by Faber Castell, and I've also used the Albrecht Durer, and they are both, I know they're sort of pricey pencils, but they're beautiful pencils, they really are. So if you have a book that's a special book and you really want to push the boat out and have nice supplies, then I would recommend both of these products highly. Okay, so I'll just leave those there. Thank you again for spending your time with me. I hope that that has been helpful, and if you have any questions about anything that I have done here today, do please leave a comment, and I will do my best to answer it, and hopefully not take too long to answer it either. So I will say goodbye for now, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.